hungry but I can't eat. Not allowed and don't sleep in my own bed anymore. A uniform to show you who I am. Boring but it's so easy. Same faces all of the time. And my girl on the brain, I'm in dire need of change, but I'll miss it all the same. Give me the news and an honest page, a seasoned book and a set of wheels, a flash of your eye from across the body, a quiet life, an open door. Strange place, familiar faces, old furniture, brings it all back. The new makes me curious, and I might miss the routine, but I'd replace it with that scene in front of me any day. I'm amazed at the ways it's gonna change.
We say that it's not what you've done, it's what you can become. We use arts to help facilitate that road to change.
Like a dream from a wishing well, my trawler eyes take everything in wild.
So everything that we do is about exploring ways that we can improve situations for the participants in the groups that we work with and help them achieve more positive outcomes.
A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows, crying out for more, like a hungry child full of life. A mishandled smiles, blown away like the flame of a candle out again, deafened by silence, fragile and lonesome again. A break from the sadness, disconnection from madness. I leap from the noise, relief in the shadows. There's a hush to destroy. I leap from the noise.
Hello there, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us. My name is Libby MacArthur, and I'm one of the facilitators who has the privilege of delivering our Road to Change programmes. So some of my colleagues spent 12 weeks with a group of participants referred by Aberdeenshire unpaid work. So for those of you who don't know us, we are the Creative Change Collective, formerly known as Street Cones. We are a charity who use the arts and creativity to help people achieve more positive outcomes in their lives. So the idea behind Roads to Change is that we give participants the opportunity to do some fairly deep self-awareness and exploration type work. The space that we create is safe and designed to be non-triggering. We use fiction as a safety net, tapping into innate creativity. Often participants consider themselves not to be creative, but we know different. From our experience, that's simply not the case. We are all creatives. This group, like all of our groups, started week 1 with a blank page. Supported by some of my colleagues, they devised fictional characters and stories exploring various themes that grew organically from the sessions. One of the themes explored by this group was how school shapes who we become. So events like tonight are an opportunity for unpaid work to give local and wider communities insights into communities' sentences. They're also an opportunity for participants to raise their awareness, and they offer insights around important themes like this one. Our programmes operate under a range of safeguarding guidelines, one of which we refer to as anonymous drama. This basically means the sessions are anonymous and participants use first names only and no personal details are shared. So, hope that covers it. In a moment, you will see a short film. There'll be excerpts from a read-through of the group script. Afterwards, we're going to have a Q&A with our panel, who I will introduce you to, and we can start submitting any questions you have in the comments section wherever you find yourself watching this, either at CCC Scott or by email direct to my colleague, Mark at ccc.scott, SCOT. The short film and the Q&A will take around an hour, and we should be done by 8 o'clock, 8:30 at the very latest. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Aberdeen's Unpaid Workload to Change group. So, I think Caitlin's going to now let us see the film.
Well, it's shit. Basically, teachers are weird. Schools are really short-staffed. Some teachers don't even know what they're doing.
It's important not to go to the toilet.
Oh, and don't tell anyone your surname in case they can't use it to bully you.
They should teach you life skills.
It should start later in the day.
There shouldn't be any homework.
Classes should be nicer.
Yeah, like teach you things that are more realistic life circumstances, like being in debt, budgeting, how to actually survive in life, get a job, buy a house, pay rent, open a bank account, set up a savings fund.
The teacher, an undervalued and neglected species, often found sitting in a corner of a classroom, curled in a tight ball, rocking and crying. Teachers are generally bred in captivity, starting life in one institution, learning more in a different and bigger institution, and then returning to the original institution in order to continue the cycle. They find the routine of time-bound periods in the school bell reassuring and are happiest when this structure is maintained. Teachers require sustenance in the form of cheap instant coffee and digestive biscuits, which are often shared in communal environment with the staff room, where the species gather to ruminate, complain and swear a lot. Teachers come in all shapes and sizes, from the studious to the bizarre, the nerdy to the cool, the gross to the sleazy, and there is now a new breed of teacher emerging, the TikTok legends who can boogie down the corridors with the best of them.
The teacher is definitely an undervalued species, and more should be done to appreciate their contributions to our society. If you want to show your appreciation for a teacher, give them an apple, some home-baked goods, or perhaps a wee, cute hand-drawn picture of your cat. To recognise a teacher, look for the telltale bags under their eyes, the slightly distant expression, and phrases such as
Things teachers shout.
No slouch back. Sit straight. Sit normally.
You have a problem with authority.
You are the class clown.
You would go far if you just use your head.
You'll go nowhere with that attitude.
You may have the brains, but you have zero concentration.
No, you should have gone at lunchtime.
School was brilliant when you think about it now. When else do you get to be so carefree? To hang out with your mates and basically mess about all day? No responsibilities.
School felt suffocating. So many expectations, so much pressure. If you couldn't sit still and be educated from the waist up, then there was no place for you. You might as well give up. I had too much energy for school. I was told I was nothing but a fidget, useless, stupid.
School was a refuge for me, like a safe place. When I went to school, I could be normal. I could pretend I had a normal family at home, a mum and dad, brothers and sisters, family dinners and cosy TV nights. Nobody had to know I was in a home. I could pretend and I got a hot meal.
School was too much for me. I didn't fit in at all. I was no like all the other boys in school. I hated football. I wanted to draw, be creative. School was too noisy, chaotic, too loud and too busy. In the end, I stopped going. I couldn't leave my bed. I just wanted to give up.
I really wish I had listened more, made the most of it, not been such a wee shite.
Advice for my younger self: ask for help. Don't be so cheeky. Don't care so much about what other people think. Brush your teeth. Trust your gut.
School should teach self-awareness, self-development, and help kids to value themselves. Creativity, conflict resolution, curiosity, the power of now.
Don't lie to kids. Be honest with them. Be consistent and have clear boundaries. Show them empathy and humanity.
The time of school should be revisited, maybe starting later in the day, shorter days. Class sizes should be smaller. Teachers should get more support and more money.
It would be amazing if schools could harness kids' interests so they each learn about something they care passionate about.
Kids shouldn't be ashamed ever. They will feel worthless and stop taking risks and caring. I know.
There shouldn't be any wrong answers. Making mistakes should be encouraged.
The poverty gap is a disgrace. It shouldn't be so obvious. Kids turn to crime from necessity, like if they need to get shoes from their wee brother. School should never let kids go hungry either. That's just cruelty.
At the end of the day,
we all come in the same, we all leave the same. We all come in with nothing and we all leave with nothing.
Oh my goodness, you guys are amazing. That was absolutely brilliant. I am so proud. You've done just a brilliant job. It was such a relatable script. I absolutely loved it. It was so powerful in parts. It was funny in parts. I really, really liked the wit and wisdom of a teacher. I thought I was laughing away at those those jokes. I just think you did so well. Just so much of that, I think, hit home around kind of experiences of school and just, you know, our own personal experiences of school and how something we spend so much time at school when we're younger and the impact that can have on our lives, you know, many years later, positive and some of the negatives. I mean, some of the comments there about what teachers had said, I think, and yeah, that has come from somewhere, whether that's personal experience or imagination or what, but just the impact that can have on our lives going forward, I think it's really, really powerful. So well done. I just thought that was excellent.
we had absolutely no idea what direction this piece was going to take, and I think that's exciting but also terrifying at the same time. And then I think what our process has been, and probably the process that I would do also in person if I was working with a group, has been just getting participants to relax, be creative. We did doodling games, drawing games, different activities, improvisations, and every single time there was a little gem of information or a little theme or a little idea that would come up. We would just I have a notebook beside me here, and it's full of things. And then this theme of schooling started to really come up, and people were quite passionate about what the messages they'd been given as young people, and the message and the things that they'd been told that they couldn't do with their life.
Yes.
And the things that they felt unprepared for from their school experience, and they really started getting really passionate about that.
Schools have come a long way, but still maybe have a long way to go in terms of the support they can provide for all pupils, and not just certain pupils, I suppose. We spend a lot of our times in schools. It should be a place where we feel comfortable and feel confident to go in, to be able to speak and be the people that we want to be, and feel supported and encouraged to do what we want to do. I think, part of what everybody takes part in street cones is always really great, because it gives people the opportunity to do things that they wouldn't normally, I guess, think to want to do or feel confident to be able to do, when actually everybody that I've seen, I think this is about the 4th read through that I've been involved in, if not the 5th, and it's always been really, really good. And the motivation and positivity that people put into it is just, it's great, it's amazing. It's a pleasure to be part of the read-throughs and see how well everybody does. And I think just about everybody that's taken part in it has always said that they've come away from it feeling much more confident at the end of the 12-week programme. So well done, everybody. It was good, really interesting. I loved the descriptions of the teachers. It was brilliant. It reminded me of lots of my teachers from a very long time ago.
Really impressed. It's how everybody's come together and made this happen. It's been really enjoyable. It's a confidence builder. Everybody's got their own problems, but I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's good work, and I'm looking forward to carrying on.
Confidence-wise, I definitely, because I have never had the confidence to do anything like this. Even before we done the read through, I'm very, very nervous. I also don't like seeing myself on screen. But at the end of it, you get a feeling of proudness. You get a feeling, you've participated in that and you've created that. And at the end, once you do the read through, you're like, I done that. So yeah, definitely.
I think confidence-wise, anybody going into something new, you're a bit wary, you're unsure, you're not sure how it's going to go.
Yep.
But as time goes on, you kind of learn to drop down that barrier and be silly with the kind of team building, exercise and games, the activities. And I think as time goes on, you learn to enjoy it more. And you just go on and you're like, right, this is the session. And then after it, always feel quite positive afterwards. I've enjoyed the session, it's been fun. Doing the team building games and things like that.
These sessions have been inspirational for me because what happens is people, everybody thinks that they're not creative. I definitely think that, and they just think, oh, I can't write or I can't do this. And then just through laughter, because Lorraine, you're brilliant at getting people to laugh, I have to say. And I think through people laughing and being relaxed, then they realise, actually, God, I can be creative. I've just written a poem. Where did that come from?
I think there's a vast amount of people within kind of general society that do believe that unpaid work should be purely a punishment. Yeah. And I suppose there is definitely a punitive element to it, even though people are here tonight enjoying themselves and having fun. They're still under a court order, and it's still kind of mandatory that they complete a certain amount of hours.
Yes.
Now, for me, it's what is the purpose of unpaid work? Is it purely for a punishment, or is it more beneficial that we attempt to kind of rehabilitate people and reintegrate people back into their local communities? Yes. They can pay back to that local communities, and we do have across Aberdeenshire your more I suppose, traditional unpaid work, where we have work parties and vans of people going out and do litter picks and cleaning beaches and cutting shrubs back and cutting grass. We do all that traditional work, but we also have additional things, for example this and many other kind of projects that we're involved in to kind of support and develop people's skill sets in the hope that at the end of it they leave us with more skills to live a pro-social, non-offending life than when they came to us. And if projects such as this can help support and facilitate that, then I very much see it as kind of worthwhile.
Yeah, I enjoyed most things. I quite enjoyed creating where you had to write down 3 scenarios and you created a story from each and everyone's sentences.
Yes.
Like the games and that were quite entertaining, character building, team building. The whole thing in general was quite good, I thought.
And everybody, just congratulations and well done. And it's really encouraging and reassuring to hear such positive feedback coming from everybody that's kind of engaged in it over the last number of weeks and months. And yeah, if I have my way and we have participants to nominate, then it will continue.
Well done, everyone. Gosh, it's a huge subject. It's fantastic, and we've got quite a few questions coming in. But before we go to the Q&A, I'd like to invite our team, our panel. So, Manager Craig McGrory, I'd like you to say a few words to start on behalf of Aberdeenshire Unpaid Work. So,
Yeah, thank you very much, Libby. Yeah, as you said, my name's Craig McGrory. I am one of the team managers for unpaid work across Aberdeenshire's Health and Social Care Partnership. I'm trying to remember now, this is maybe the 5th or 6th cycle of kind of Was Street Cones, now the Creative Change Collective that I've been part of, and kind of I really enjoy it. I think it's really beneficial. I think what the participants get out of it is kind of unmeasurable sometimes, and it's very difficult to can actually put into words or put into paper or to evidence just how beneficial it may be. So I'm delighted to be involved again tonight and looking forward to the Q&A.
Fantastic. So Craig's part of our lovely panel. And now I'd like to introduce you to Jen Sutherland, who is an educational psychologist with Aberdeenshire Education and Children's Services. So we've got Jen.
Yeah.
Hello, Jen.
Hi,
and
Libby.
last but not least, one of the group of performers that we've just watched, participant Claire.
Hello.
Hi, Claire.
Hello.
So, great, guys. So I'll just look at the first question we have here, and if anyone wants to immediately go for it, that's fine. And if not, I'll come and pick on you. Okay, so the first question was sent by email from Kathleen, and quoting, she says, in the film, the participants talk about some of the more negative aspects of their school experiences. And I'd like to find out what, if anything, has been done in more recent years to improve children and young people's experiences of school. Jen, do you know?
Yeah, that's probably something that I can speak about. Libby, yeah. I mean, I certainly, listening to some of the comments, I'm really sorry that some of the people seem to have had the experiences they've had, and I can totally see where that has come from. I think back into my own school days, and I remember comments like those and the kinds of things that people were speaking about. I'd like to think we've come a long way since then. We're embedding sort of nurture approaches now in our schools, and that's across the board. That's secondaries and primary schools. It's understanding that all behaviour is communication. So we need to get to know young people. It's about relationships. Those are paramount. We work with staff. Somebody in the film said about mistakes should be encouraged. Right from the word go now, we talk about mistakes are really good things. You can never learn if you don't make mistakes. We get kids to work together. There are no right answers. Well, not until we get further through the school when they're, when we're sitting exams. But up until that point, we teach creativity now in some of our schools. Our schools have got counselling services across the board. In the secondaries, we're moving that down into the primaries. I think we've got a better understanding now that everybody is different and everybody needs something different. And we try and tailor what we're doing to meet individual needs. So, you know, we're doing a lot more play further down the school, but even in our secondaries, we've got secondary schools setting up play areas, nurture spaces, and everything. We try to make so much more individualized, and we try to understand where young people are coming from. And you know, I would like to think that we're not hearing too many of the sit up, no, you can't go to the toilet, all of those kinds of things that people were talking about in the film. I would like to think that we've moved on. It's not to say that we're getting it right all the time. You know, we're still not getting it right all of the time, but we're trying. I think that's the thing, that we are. There's an acknowledgement that we do need to look at each individual and think about where they're coming from, think what might be in their background, and to try and understand what their experiences have led them to, in the way that in what they're making of their school experience. And you know, we've got a much broader range of courses now. So I would like to think that we're doing a better job than maybe came across in some of the comments there. But I totally get where those comments were coming from. Even from my own experience, I totally get that.
Yeah. So much. That sounds wonderful, Clary. I mean, you know, it's felt like Jen was addressing every single issue that I had at school. You know, the idea of, you know, how do you feel about that response, Claire? You know, obviously, I would add to that. You know, finding out what makes a kid's heart sing. You know, finding what each individual child is lit up by. You know.
Yeah, things are so much better now. Back in my day, I mean, I have 2 kids. One of them suffers from dyslexia. I mean, he's really good at practical things, but when it comes to pen and paper, not so good. But he gets so much encouragement and help. I mean, classes that he can't, like math and things, they take him into a separate class and work on his English, his reading, his writing, things like that, instead of just being left, like in my day, I'm 47, in March, was just left at the back of the class. But that doesn't seem to happen now, so that's good.
Yeah, we have hope. Craig, you must have seen so many young people. It was almost like the trajectory was inevitable if they were left behind at, you know, at school, literally left, you know, back of the class, as Claire says.
Yeah, and I think it's no surprise that there's a strong correlation and connection between those children that are talking about negative experiences at school, and then all too often they find their way through into adult services where I work, and from the age of kind of 16 up, we have kind of far too many young people coming through kind of criminal justice social work door. I think there is I don't know too much about the educational side of things. It's not an area I've ever worked in, but there is other schemes across social work that the kind of procurator fiscals have got the option to it's called diversion schemes, and other kind of ways they can divert young people, especially away from the justice system, and keep them out of courts.
And is there is there a connection there? You know, you talk about working with the schools. Are you able to do that? Like literally
not directly, no, but we work very closely with our colleagues in children and families, or in our through care and aftercare teams for looked after children, and we have close working relationships with them. So if there is a child that's coming through the system and having difficulty, we may be aware of them. But being a statutory social work service, we don't actually start working with people until they reach adulthood.
Until they're flagged up. You know? I thought that was a great line for the film. You know, going to school, you get to pretend and you get a hot meal. You know, gosh, it said a lot, didn't it? Okay, guys, thank you. We'll move on to the next email, and it's from Kirsty, and it's for you, Craig. Participants spoke positively about their experience of the workshops. Can you tell us a bit about how this work benefits the unpaid work service?
Okay, have I picked the question up, how it benefits the unpaid work service, or how it benefits the participants that engage in it?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? The question is how this work benefits the unpaid work service. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think there is definite benefits, and the most obvious one from I suppose from a management point of view and trying to organise and coordinate is that we have kind of certainly in North Aberdeenshire, well north of 300 people that are all subject to unpaid work at this moment in time, and we'll have to develop and provide opportunities for all those individuals to complete their hours. So just purely in terms of capacity and having kind of, I suppose, many strings to your bow that we can use kind of this initiative from Creative Change Collective and other things that we have on the go at any one time to give people that opportunities. If we never had opportunities such as this, then unfortunately with our traditional work parties and going out in local communities, just due to staffing issues and resources, we might only be able to offer somebody an opportunity to go out maybe once every 2 weeks or possibly once every 3 weeks, depending on kind of capacity that we've got. So the more opportunities we have, the quicker we can progress people through their orders and get them completed their kind of unpaid work hours kind of promptly.
And obviously at Creative Change Collective, we're delighted to hear it's a win-win, because just like Jen was saying, there's so much about imagination and play and actually beginning to have confidence in your own creativity that will lead to so much more, people having that kind of, accountability for themselves is what happens next, So fantastic. So now we have an email from, we have one from Kathleen at Aberdeen Community Justice, just to say a huge well done to all participants and facilitators. She says, I always enjoy what the groups produce, and it's a privilege to join you on these events. So well done to all of you. So it's nice just to get a wee yo-yo. So by email, we had from Claire Borden. It came in, it was an email via Twitter, but it says, absolutely amazing work by all involved. Here is a question for the panel. And this is a great question. If you had the opportunity to be a teacher today to a group of 12, 16-year-olds, what would be the main lesson that you would teach? Wow. Claire, let's start with you. If you were a teacher and you were hitting that age, that 12, that liminal space of heading towards adulthood, 12 to 16, what would be the main thing you'd like to?
I think really what I would get across it's like younger generation is that at that age you think you're invincible sometimes.
Yes.
But I mean, it would just be like in life you need to learn.
Well, Claire, I really want to hear what you say, but I don't know if it's only me, but I was losing you there. I don't know if you have to be a wee bit. I know, I was like, I really want to hear what Claire's going to say.
Can you hear me?
That's good. That was strong.
That's better now, Claire.
Yeah, is that better? Yeah, as I was saying, coming into that age, you really think you're invincible. But as I say, you need to make mistakes to learn as well. So it's a fine line. I mean, go on life, but please just try and the real bad mistakes. But again, I mean, I have 2 kids. You can never say they're grew up perfect, this, that. Because you never know. You never know. But I think it's really important to embed into children, not to be negative, but as I say, you can't really learn if you don't make some little mistakes, not major ones, but small ones. And it isn't funny either. A lot of this younger generation with this TikToks and things like that sometimes gives them the wrong idea of how life actually works. And it would just be to like go down the right path, because I always think there's people out there that will pull you down, but they won't help you back up when you've made a terrible mistake.
Lovely, Claire. It's keeping your own counsel and being able to kind of like give yourself acceptance for the times, offer yourself the acceptance, the times when you've maybe made a wrong turn, haven't we all? Sometimes I feel as if it is that thing of children are not allowed to make the mistakes, as grown-ups we're allowed, but the children aren't, Craig, Jen, if either of you got anything you would come straight out with if you were teaching right now?
I think I would try and teach them not to be too hard on other people and not to be too hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Because, everybody gets things wrong, everybody learns by making lots of mistakes. So don't be too hard on yourself. And always think about where that other person might be coming from and what their day's been like or what their life is like. And if you can sort of put yourself in their shoes, it maybe makes you interpret how they're behaving or what they're saying to you, or in a different way from your initial reaction.
Yeah,
I think that's what I would be hoping to teach
Craig,
them.
hard acts to follow there, Craig. What's the sense there?
Yeah. I don't know. My mind's racing here. I'm kind of thinking if I had a magic wand and I could change the education system, what would I do?
I know. No.
I think my biggest frustration from my own experience and also being a dad as well. So I think the academic route of going through school and sitting exams when you come to the end of your secondary education kind of is a learning style that only suits some children. And I always feel that if your child is not academically inclined, they don't enjoy sitting down, studying, rehearsing, memorizing, then they tend to not do well in terms of an educational academic sense. But there's so many other ways to educate and so many other ways to learn that I often feel schools kind of don't look into often enough. And I know there's a whole host of reasons and resources and teaching staff being probably the main ones. But certainly if I could have a happy, confident, well-adjusted, good sense of self-esteem and self-worth child leaving school, I wouldn't really be too worried about academic qualifications, what they gain.
Yeah,
I would
that's really good.
I would much rather they were that kind of a whole person kind of leaving feeling confident and good about themselves.
Confident, yeah. Well, that's really good. I never
Yeah, and
thought
I think
of that,
we're
actually.
understanding. Sorry, Claire, say that.
I said I never thought of that, actually. That's really good, Craig.
That's what's important, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's good what you were saying, Jen, about the idea of there's all sorts of different kinds of cleverness now that are being recognised, not just academia.
Absolutely. And obviously there's a review of what our exam system looks like, because further down the school, really the skills we're trying to teach are about cooperation. They are about all the things that Craig is talking about. And and I agree with you, Craig, that ultimately you want kids to be leaving school feeling a sense of what they're all about and valued for what they can contribute. And with a bit of humanity about them and a bit of understanding about the world's a very diverse place made up of lots of diverse people. And that's going to get you a long way in life.
Yeah.
The paper qualifications are not necessarily going to get you there if you're not the kind of person that's able to get on with everybody and accept people for who they are, and so on and so forth. Sorry, Libby, I'm now beginning to forget what it was that I started to say about at the very beginning of that, but I hope that's made sense.
Totally did.
Most definitely.
So, Claire, I've got two questions for you here.
Okay.
There's a question from Norman and there's a question from Kathleen. So, from Norman, he's asking you about working on Aberdeenshire's unpaid work for 12 weeks with Create Change Collective, and he asks, what ways did attending these sessions have a positive impact on you?
All right, okay. Well, to start with, I wasn't really sure. But when I got in, this will be my third one that I'm doing, and I just really enjoy it. It's like coming in with a group of people, getting everything together, and it just really you don't feel you feel you're the only person that's doing this. There's other people out there. You feel sometimes I'm the only one that's done something, and you're hard on yourself. But then you get to understand other people, and start to speak and get confident with that group. Every group's the same. You get confident and comfortable, and it's really I do it twice a week, and I just would highly recommend it. It's just
I look forward to it now. I mean, I really do. I look forward to these sessions. I don't think of them as, like I always say, CCC, 'cause I always forget our college street cones. But now I look forward to the sessions, and I feel just like I'm going in and speaking with friends, and we're working. Well, we do work though. Are working on scripts, and it's really nice. Remember,
Fantastic.
it's like a drama class. It's good. Yeah.
Brilliant. Warms the cockles of my heart to hear all of that. And then the Kathleen wants to kind of hone it right down and sort of say, what was your favourite thing? What did you like most?
Oh, definitely. Just the general banter. I mean, the facilitators are really good. I mean, everybody comes in the first time and they're like, they're like terrified. You see it in everybody's faces. The facilitators, they know how to break the ice. They get everybody going with games, and then before you know it, you're laughing, you're joking, and then we're getting down to work with a script. So it's really good and bonding and gelling everyone together.
Absolutely. That Lorraine could make anyone.
Lorraine's brilliant, isn't she?
But you know, Claire, it's so beautiful what you're saying, because it's so profound, isn't it? Friends helping friends, and that kind of grassroots thing of building up self-esteem together.
And you don't feel
nobody's
alone.
Judging.
Yes, that's it. You don't feel alone. Sometimes you're so hard on yourself and you feel you're the only person and you're alone. But then as a group of people come in and you think, no, I'm not alone. It's really good, and it's not treating you like it's treating you normal. It really is. And it makes you feel more human.
Brilliant. So Janice has sent an email, and Janice would like to know from our panel, so all of the three of you, Jane, Claire and Craig, what was your personal experience at school that really had a positive impact on you? You know, looking back at your own schooling, what would you say was the thing that made you go, oh, that's working, that's something school's getting right? It's almost like all of us had a teacher, didn't we? The angel. You know, I've never met anyone that didn't have at least one teacher that was like literally saved their lives. You know, but yeah, what was the one thing that you thought was this is school at its best? Jen, will we start with you?
I think that's the thing that you just said, Libby, about the teachers that made you feel that you were doing really, you were managing, that they took time to listen to you, that they were interested in you as a human being rather than just there to teach a subject to you. I think those are the things that stick out.
That teacher, that was an invitation to teach you.
Absolutely. I think for me, those are the outstanding memories I have at school. You know, the funny moments, the times when teachers were maybe acting a part, you know, for the class, or playing something silly on the piano that everybody recognised it was nothing to do with the music lesson. Those kinds of things were the things.
It goes back to what Claire was saying about connection and that sense of feeling that you're part of a team, and you know, you're not kind of, you know, there is not that hierarchy of, you know, when a teacher actually is connecting you. Wonderful. Craig?
I don't know. If I'm being completely honest, I think it was just going out every day and spending time with my friends is what I enjoyed most about school. I wasn't the most academic. I never applied myself at school. I left school after passing a few exams at the end of S4, and I did an apprenticeship of all things. It wasn't until later on in life, I was 28 years old, when I decided to go back into education and kind of qualified as a social worker. So I just never had it in me to apply myself with the discipline of what it took to go on to further education when I was 17, 18. I was just all about carrying on and hanging about with my friends at that age.
Look at you now, Craig.
I know, but
big grown-up job.
Yeah, just took a while to mature. So I suppose, like many boys do.
I think you're in good company there. Yeah, and Claire, what would you say if, you know, obviously you're this must have been part of the discussion of the in the making of the film.
Yeah,
it was. Worked at school? What made your heart sing at school?
Not a lot, really.
Yeah.
No. I was bullied at school. In primary school, I had really sticky out ears, not to get them pinned back for this reason. I was so nervous going into academy. I just sort of kept my head down, but I didn't apply myself. I was the one that sat at the back, believe it or not, and just was quiet, just like a quiet mouse. And I just couldn't wait to leave. But I left and went into a factory. Was making a lot of money, but then I had a bad car crash and I fractured my spine. So I couldn't go back to that manual physical job. So I then went and did an HND, a higher national degree, when I was 22. And I know it's beauty therapy, but you just don't cover that. You cover anatomy, physiology, math, all this, accounts, how to run a small business. And I was like, again, like Craig went back later on and just thought, wow, I have a brain. I just never applied it.
Isn't it interesting? And,
yeah.
and there must be, you know, that you guys will be the tip of the iceberg. That must have been the case for hundreds of kids. That, you know, that nobody was kind of going, oh, come on, you guys, don't, you know, you're going to be so fascinating. Okay, guys, we're moving on. I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's 8:15 and we've still got quite a few questions. We're going a wee bit later than 8 o'clock, hopefully, but let's just see what we get done. So I think everybody could contribute to this one. Definitely Craig and Jen, hopefully, but yourself as well, Claire. It's saying, and it's from Jason, and Jason's asking, in a justice context, is there or what preventative measures could be taken by schools to try and divert pupils from going, you know, heading towards being involved in the justice system? Is there something that schools could do to kind of like divert?
Yeah, I know for me, Jen will probably talk a lot more to it, but I'm certainly aware that schools already do lots of things, and I'm just very cautious that we don't want to be kind of banging on schools and teachers here, thinking they're not doing a good job, because they most definitely are. And certainly across schools, I know there's educational psychology and there's social workers in a lot of schools, and they've got bases in a lot of schools for kids with additional needs. Now, kind of certainly my schooling, which was a number of years ago, granted, there was none of that stuff that I remember when I went to school in the kind of early 1990s. So I think there is kind of lots of things going on in schools to try and keep children kind of from straying into trouble. But I think kind of Claire touched on it earlier. I think the difficulty for me is that unfortunately teenagers often think they know best, and it's very, very difficult to speak to them and for them to put an old head on young shoulders. It's just, it's not something that's easy to do. And with the best will in the world, we would all love to be able to do that. But unfortunately, all too often they have to go out and kind of make mistakes and learn from that mistakes and hopefully grow into kind of well-adjusted adults and not got themselves into too much trouble kind of on that journey.
Yeah,
I mean, it's one of the reasons I believe in stories so much, you know, because I think, you know, theatre drama can really bring these, you know, like you were saying, Craig, oftentimes it's, you know, you need your head cracked before you can get. When Claire was talking earlier on about kids who, you know, think they're indestructible, you know, I could hear myself going, Captain Scarlet, indestructible. I don't even know if you know who Captain Scarlet was. You know. But
we've been offered. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to jump in. We've been offered, to write like an anonymous, like letter, but almost like story about. I mean, I'm 47 in March, and I went through all my like young teenage years just so quiet, never did see. So you can make mistakes as you get older. See what it's not always when you're young. You can sometimes do it when you're older. So I think maybe somebody coming in to chat to the children just about, you know, it like just about whatever, just to try and guide them. But I mean, sometimes, as you say, it can't always be done, but we was going to do this letters and they're putting in for people to read. I thought that was a really good idea, just like based on your story, but they don't know your name or anything like that, and it's just an awareness.
Brilliant idea, Claire. Brilliant. Jen, that sounds great, eh?
It does. It sounds fab, actually, Claire. And I think that will help kids see that
Yeah.
There's lots of people with lots of different stories, and
Mhm.
and to take that beyond, well, here's what happened, and then here's what happened, and then here's what happened, and to see that bit that, and like what Craig's
Yeah.
saying, and what Craig's saying, about, there's lots of ways to skin a cat, and we go about things in so many different ways that we can all we can all eventually get to where we want to get, and the path may not be smooth. And as Craig was in there just now, teenagers, we know that teenagers' brains are not developed. They don't have that sort of bit about controlling their impulses. They leap into stuff. They do think they know stuff, and we all know that. But I'm hopeful that because of the work that we're doing in schools around about encouraging kids to um, understand themselves better, to be more in touch with how they feel, and to be able to speak about that. And we use approaches like emotion coaching, which is about teaching children about what their emotions are in the face in that moment, and to help them kind of recognize what's happening in their bodies, and to understand that their upstairs brain and their downstairs brain aren't talking to each other in that moment, and that's a moment of real danger. I hope that because we're doing all of that work, and we're teaching them more about how their brains work, and we're teaching them more about how the whole jigsaw fits together, then maybe, just maybe, that'll all come together to have an impact. And
Yes.
we don't know that yet. It's relatively new work. We
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, power
But
to your
you'd like
elbow,
to
Jen. That
think,
sounds wonderful.
you'd like to think that.
Yeah. I find with school children, I no longer say something like, what would you like to be when you grow up? I would say something like, have you noticed what a mess us grown-ups have made? Is there any way you might be able to contribute to improve the situation?
That's
Almost going to the
brilliant.
kids and saying, what can you bring to the party? Because we need you. We
That's
really
really
need your
good,
contribution,
yeah.
So Craig, just hope we can get your connection better. Then I'm seeing that your connections are going to be a bit dodgy. Okay, we'll move on. We've still got a 10 minutes anyway.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
We've got an email from Joe. Joe says, I consider myself successful in my chosen career, but like many of my successful peers, I experienced adversity in school. Does the panel believe someone who experiences little adversity is less likely to succeed? I accept that these are, generalizations. It's really interesting what Joe's asking here. I have this joke with teaching drama that every actor I know has been bullied. Every creative I've ever worked with, every poet, every writer, at some point will tell you a story about bullying.
Wow.
So it's almost like, the kids that maybe have it too easy sometimes don't actually, the pendulum doesn't swing so far into creativity. I don't know. But Joe says, does the panel believe someone who experiences little adversity is less likely to succeed? He's basically saying, is it grist to the mill? Is there something about having to face your fears, get
There's
through
definitely something, Libby, about, if it's all plain sailing, then there's something about resilience in there. And that's why we work so hard now to develop kind of growth mindset with kids, that, it is about working through that. That learning is a struggle no matter what you're doing. So, and we know that kids that fly through school, get really great results, very often come unstuck, because when they get stuck, they don't know how to unstick themselves, because they haven't been through that process of having to unstick themselves. So I'm not sure you could go as far as to say that they're less likely to succeed, or but certainly there will come a point in time where they have to dig deep, and they have to think, right, okay, what can I do here? And the kids that experience that all the way through school, we know are more likely to persevere. We know that they're that they detach themselves. They don't make it so personal about them. If they're not succeeding, they think, well, I could do this, I could do this, I could try this, I could maybe, they've got more strategies to use, because they dissociate about them and valuing them as a person. Whereas we know that the kids that do really well all the way through tend to identify themselves with that. So when they get a bit of a knock, it tends to be a
big
steeper,
one.
steeper slope for them to get back to where they started?
It's a great
we do know
question,
that
isn't
from,
it?
yeah,
It
it's a
goes
really
right
good
back to what
question.
Claire was saying earlier about, you know, the chance to make mistakes and how important it is to actually just kind
Yeah,
of learn and
it's
grow.
all
You know,
tied.
Yeah.
it's almost
It's all
like that.
tied up with fixed.
Yeah, that's where
Yeah.
we get our muscle, isn't it? That's where we
Yeah,
get our.
it's tied up with
Yeah.
fixed mindset and growth mindset, and that idea that you can always get cleverer and you can always do better and you can always find a way, and just to keep persevering. And as I say,
Yeah.
Of course, it's almost like I can see a trampoline. You know, you need that net to catch people so they can bounce back up again. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you guys, you know, what you do, Craig, what you do, Jen. You know, it's that kind of thing of creating that safe environment. You know, hopefully, community. You know, all community connections, including Creative Change Collective, offer that environment where people can try again, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
And
maybe
also,
even if there's such a thing as actually known eventually that there's gold in them their hills, you know, like each hurdle actually offers a gift behind the you know the supposedly
and Claire,
hurdle.
the other bit about that is letting folk know that it should be a struggle to learn. It should be. If it's not a struggle,
Yeah.
the challenge isn't right. You know, and it
Yeah.
should be perfectly safe to make those mistakes, and that's where you learn how to overcome the mistakes.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
It's a great question
to
by
know,
Joe.
yeah.
It's a lovely question.
Yeah.
And I think we all know the kind of clever, stupid people. We all know the people who are very, very academically bright.
Yeah.
And have actually, like you said, Craig, you know, managed all those exam results and came out and you know, but can't run a menage, as my mother would say. You know,
I'm not cutting in. Sorry, Libby, but I have to tell a story. I remember I was up for a job for a receptionist, and I was up against 50 people, and I was like, no way am I getting this job. These people were coming in with their CVs as thick as the Bible, and I'm like, no way. I've like one sheet. And I went in and I started talking to the guy that was interviewing me, and I was just speaking and and I went out and I thought, no way. I mean, I've no qualifications. I've got my basic like computer skills. And then I got a call that night, and he's like, and I thought, here he goes. Sorry, but he's like, I'm pleased to tell you've got the job. And I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, how? And I says, I have no qualifications. And he says, it was your personality that won you through. He says, because you're the face the customer's going to see very first. You're the very first face. And he says, you're so chatty and make people feel welcome. And I was like, wow. See, so it just shows you don't have to have all of that to get. I mean, you can have all the. I'm not dissing people at get A's. That's amazing. I wish I could, but because I couldn't, I had to use my other talent, which was talking.
Of course, and I tell you, we've all met these guys that, you know, went on to be doctors. They came straight out of university, you know, went straight into being a doctor. And, you know, their bedside manner is a
oh, it's terrible. I've met them. Believe you me, yeah.
So fantastic. And that's what we were talking earlier on about, learning about connection and reaching out and being with other people. You know, that's what this work offers. You know, that idea of all the labels collapsing so that people just feel like people together.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
a community sense. Fantastic. So we have a question from Jamie, and it says, what impact is social media having on pupils? I never had to deal with that at school myself, and I feel it can only add negative pressure and additional capacity for bullying. Yeah, the social media stuff at schools, it's too hard, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, saw that in the film, Claire, the TikTok teacher, the new breed of TikTok teacher. I thought that was very funny.
I think it can make a lot of the youngsters feel quite down, especially girls. I think weight is a big factor because all they're seeing is this models, perfect bodies, and then they're maybe looking at themselves and thinking, oh, and plus the messaging, private messaging, bullying, it's just heartbreaking when you see young people taking their lives because of bullying. it's just I've been in tears reading it. And just see boys and because they can't open up maybe and talk about it to their mum or dad. And that's why I always say to my kids, please talk to me if there's anything, and I mean anything, just talk to me, open up, because it's very heartbreaking, and a lot of it is our social media pressure about how to look, how much friends you have. The list goes on. It's endless. I didn't let mine have iPhones and that till they were like 14.
Good.
And because I just didn't want any of that. But it's heartbreaking. It really is.
I don't think we can underestimate it. I think you're dead right, Claire. Yeah,
Oh,
Jen,
it's sad.
you must be aware of all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only really speak from personal experience of that with my own children rather than from research and whatever. But certainly my observation is that, the mood can be massively affected by what appears on that social media feed. And the day can either be a really good one or a really dreadful one. And it can change in an instant because
Yes.
something pops up on a phone.
Yeah.
And I agree, Claire. It's really
Yeah.
heartbreaking
Oh,
to see the impact that it can have on children, especially if it's just constant and relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah, Craig, you must be aware of that in your work, yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, just from personal experience and both my own children, I think kind of what I notice more is that it's not just during school hours now is the worst thing about it. It's
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
Like my generation, if you got a hard time at school, at least when you got home at 4
Yeah.
o'clock, you were with your family and you were
Yeah,
safe
you're
until the
safe.
next day.
Yeah.
Whereas there's just no escape now. It's like 24 hours, 7 days a week, just all the time that people are kind of able to contact you, or able to kind of do kind of nasty, horrible things or say nasty, horrible things. So it's really, really challenging. I don't know what the answer is. I think social media is wonderful in some contexts, but it's kind of the worst thing ever in other contexts as well. And it's just it's so difficult to get that balance.
It's lovely
and
to
if
hear
only-
just the compassion that's there for the young people having to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
just
Yeah,
that being an
yeah.
extra awareness for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
This age, the group that we're talking about, they're the 12 to 16, they're the most prone to it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
very
I've
sad.
got a-
Final question here. Final question just to
Okay.
wrap up. And it's from Emma, who wrote in by email. And she says, how much of who we become is nurture and how much is nature? Panel. Big question. But if you believe more in nature, can schools even make much of a difference at all? If it is folk coming in that way, nature, nurture, what's your take on that? Who wants to go? Claire,
It's
I'll
the
just go first whilst the
Oh,
going's
go
good, and I can actually.
Craig.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Nature, nurture.
Sorry, I'm
What's
having
your-
really bad internet connection for the last 10 minutes. Yeah, I think that's the $1,000,000 question, is it really, that we've kind of no one's really been able to answer for as long as there's been psychology and sociology on the go, and kind of neuropsychology and all the other disciplines. It's I think it's a bit of both. I think what's in your DNA is in your DNA, and there's no change in that genetic makeup. But with the right nurture and the right environment, I think children can kind of prosper no matter how kind of difficult or adverse kind of experiences they may have had kind of in the past. So yeah, for me, it's a bit of both. I think it's a combination of both, and kind of if you have kind of things in your genetics that kind of are maybe not the best characteristics, then they can still be kind of worked on and kind of changed throughout kind of that nurturing process.
What do you think, Jen? What do you think, Claire? Who's coming in first?
I'm just
Jen?
thinking.
I'll let
funnily
Jen
enough-
go.
Thanks, Claire. I'm just thinking, funnily enough, there was a whole debate on the radio at lunchtime today. I don't know if anybody else heard it, about this exact thing.
No, it's not.
But I'm with Craig that it's
I wonder
this
if Emma heard it.
ever-present debate. Nature, nurture. Certainly, as long since I was little, I've been hearing about nature, nurture, and I would agree with Craig. There's a bit of both. I think the thing is that if there are adverse experiences, then if we can identify that those have been there, and we can help at the point where if we can identify points, say we've got a lot now on trauma. We know that trauma starts in the brainstem, so we have to look at that bit first. Because if we try to layer the other stuff on the top of it, we won't be able to help as much as if we look at the where that sort of injury, if you like, was in the first place. So the more we learn about the brain and neuroscience, the better able we will be to make an impact through nurturing approaches. I think that's where I am. So, it's always going to be a balance, but the more we find out, the better equipped we're going to be to help get the best outcomes for everyone.
Fantastic. Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I've never been a teacher or anything, but I'm a parent. And I'm like quite the nurturing side as well, but it's a balance, as the other guys was saying, a fine balance. But I was reading something yesterday. It was really interesting. I never knew that some adults could suffer from, is it PTSD, if there'd been abuse or violence back in their childhood. It's something about the block at the back of the brain. Then something can trigger it, and now people is really being aware of it, and they're writing it all down, and sort of they've hidden it, and it's caused problems like mental problems, breakdowns, but it's all stemmed from like abuse and that in childhood. I thought it was fascinating. It just trigger, and then boom, something comes out. And that sometimes is an impact in the child all his or her lives. I thought it was fascinating. I never knew that could happen.
But tonight someone said, you can, I don't know if it was yourself, Jen, or Claire, but I think it was one of you sort of said, we must remember we don't know where folk are coming from. We don't know what they're having to deal with. There has to be that kind of openness to find out, and keep the compassion.
Yeah. I
Jen,
always
sorry,
keep
were you
that
going
in
to say
mind.
something? I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, Claire, what you're talking about is exactly what we're finding out more and more about, and we know that we can help repair things, and we can help children move on from that. But we need to be really aware that that might be what's going on, and we're becoming much more aware of that. There's loads and loads of stuff happening.
So that is something. This is it PTSD? Am I right?
It could be. Yeah, that's post-traumatic stress. But basically, it's about there having been trauma somewhere in the background, and that could have been in the first few weeks, months of life. And it can leave a lasting impact because of the way that the brain kind of then develops.
Does the kiddies tend to like just take it and like hold it somewhere, and then something triggers it? Is that what happens?
It's a wee bit like it's a wee bit like you see, when cavemen saw a tiger and their first reaction was to like go and fight it.
Fight or flight.
Sometimes that fight or flight response. If in early years, like very early on, the first few months of life, if a child's maybe living in an environment that is causing them to not be maybe so well looked after as they might have been, as there's other things going on around them and their experience, because at that point they're only experiencing stuff with their senses, so they don't have any language or anything like that, so they're just absorbing what's going on round about them, and sometimes they can get stuck. And if that goes on for long enough, they can kind of get stuck. So then no matter what kind of safe place they're in, they're still a bit on edge and then they're not able to kind of look at what's really going on round about them from a safe perspective, because their sort of conditioned way of reacting is what was in their very, very early experiences. But we know
fascinating, but you know what I mean. I never knew you could unlock that in children's brain almost to get it out.
We're just learning loads more about it. Really,
I think it's such a wonderful way that we've came to this at the end of this.
I know.
Emma's question about nature and nurture, and we're now in this place where we're actually saying there's a conversation that's bleeding into school, which will come all your direction, Craig, with your work around just having a bigger, more mindful, more aware look at how our children are, being nurtured into in our education system, to actually find a way for them to be at their best, to be.
Sorry, I'm having real difficulty hearing you, Libby. I'm aware you're talking, but you're cutting in and out all the time.
Oh, Craig, I can you hear me okay, Jen? Can you hear me, Claire?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, fine.
So
But I see what you mean. And
guys, we I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet here.
Yeah.
I think we're saying, there's been an upgrade since I was at school, for sure.
Yes,
we're leaning
definitely.
into more creativity all the time, because we understand that that's a way that we can reinvent ourselves, so it's it's all great. I would like to personally thank Jen and Craig, and so sad, Craig, that you're coming and going with the connection. That's rubbish. And of course, Claire and her group for such a smashing bit of work, and just to get the whole, the fact that we're having this conversation just thrills me.
It's
is there anything
brilliant.
anyone would like to add from the panel before we start to finish up?
No, just thanks very much for having me. It's been really interesting. I've loved
the conversation of the moment, isn't
hearing
it?
about it, yeah.
Thank you. It's sort of changed from that to learning about that to learning about that. So it's been really good. Thank you. I just love it. As I say, I look forward to these sets. I've one tomorrow again, and I'm like, oh yes, Ken. I'm good. I always call it CCC because I can never remember the name. I'm like creative something. I'll just call it CCC.
CCC is the way to go.
Yeah,
It's the way to
I've
go.
one tomorrow.
So on that note, Claire, thank you for that prompt.
No problem.
For anyone listening, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and switch on updates. Check out our other projects as well, because Creative Change Collective, I've got quite a lot of things going on. And all the links to our social media accounts are on our webpage at ccc.scot. That's simple, Claire.
Yeah, woo!
So, guys, that's us. Thanks so much, Jen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Claire, power to your elbow and then some. And,
right back at you.
And it's a shame that I think we've lost Craig, because he was going. Anyway, but thanks everyone for listening, for tuning in. The questions were great. I think they followed on beautifully. I think we all know what we need to be doing now. We need to be having big ears for each other, and keep the creative juices flowing, so that we can actually finding out who we are as human beings, as poor wee fragile human beings, looking after each other as much as we can. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Thanks,
I think we're going to go to credits. So.
Long hours, sore fingers, the melody lingers. First tune, beaming smile, feel the style. Hands, stiff wrist,